Blood dripped from Luna's palms as her claws extended involuntarily, the mate bond snapping like a severed rope as Marcus's rejection echoed through the pack ceremony hall. Marcus Kane, future alpha of the Silver Crescent Pack, reject you, Luna Blackwood, as my mate and future Luna. The words hit her like silver bullets to the chest. Around her, the combined members of both packs fell silent, their shocked faces a blur through her tears. The ancient ceremony hall, decorated with harvest flowers and glowing candles for what should have been the most sacred night of the year, suddenly felt like a tomb. Luna's wolf howled inside her, a sound of pure anguish that threatened to tear her apart from within. The mate bond she'd felt since childhood, that golden thread connecting her to Marcus, withered and died, leaving a gaping wound in her soul. I choose Celeste Morrison as my Luna, Marcus continued, his voice steady and cold. He didn't even look at Luna as he spoke, his dark eyes fixed on the beautiful blonde standing beside him. Celeste, the beta's daughter, smiled triumphantly, her perfect white teeth gleaming in the candlelight. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. The moon goddess chose mates, not politics. But Marcus had made his choice clear, power over love, status over sacred bonds. Luna's father stepped forward, his face ashen. Marcus, you cannot simply reject. I can and I have, Marcus cut him off. Luna may carry Blackwood blood, but her wolf is weak. She's never fully shifted. She would make our pack vulnerable. His words were measured, practiced. He'd planned this. Heat burned up Luna's neck and face. It was true, while other wolves her age shifted effortlessly, Luna struggled with partial shifts, managing only claws and enhanced senses. The pack whispered that her bloodline had grown thin, that she was more human than wolf. The rejection is witnessed, Elder Thorn announced reluctantly, his ancient voice heavy with disapproval. The bond is severed. Luna felt the final thread snap inside her chest. She doubled over, a strangled cry escaping her lips. Around her, pack members shifted uncomfortably, some looking away in embarrassment, others watching with cruel fascination. Luna, her best friend Sarah reached for her, but Luna jerked away. She couldn't stay here. Couldn't stand another second of their pity, their whispers, their relief that it wasn't them standing in her place. Without a word, she spun and ran from the hall, her incomplete shift making her movements clumsy and desperate. The cool October air hit her face as she burst outside, but it did nothing to soothe the fire consuming her from within. Behind her, she heard her parents calling, heard the ceremony resuming as if her heartbreak was nothing more than a minor interruption to their festivities. Luna ran harder, her feet carrying her away from the packlands, away from everything she'd ever known. Tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision as she stumbled through the forest. She didn't care where she was going, anywhere was better than watching Marcus claim another woman as his mate. The trees grew thicker, darker. Some rational part of her mind whispered warnings, but Luna ignored them. She was past caring about boundaries, past caring about safety. Let the rogues find her. Let them tear her apart. It couldn't hurt worse than this. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs gave out, until she collapsed against a massive oak tree in a clearing she didn't recognize. The moonlight filtering through the canopy seemed different here, cooler, more silver than gold. And the scent. Luna's wolf stirred uneasily. This wasn't Silver Crescent territory anymore. The markers were all wrong, the scent boundaries foreign and dangerous. She'd crossed into forbidden lands. Well. What have we here? The voice came from the shadows, deep and rough like whiskey over gravel. Luna's head snapped up, her incomplete shift flaring to life as claws extended and her senses sharpened. A figure stepped from the darkness between the trees, tall, broad-shouldered, with black hair and eyes like winter storms. Even before she saw the silver moon tattoo on his forearm, she knew who he was. Every wolf in the territory knew that face, that presence that made the air itself seem to bow in submission. Kieran Nightshade. Alpha of the Shadow Moon Pack. Their greatest enemy. Luna scrambled to her feet, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. She should run. should shift fully and flee back to her own territory. But her wolf seemed frozen, caught between terror and something else entirely. "You're on my lands, little wolf," Kieran said, circling her slowly like a predator sizing up prey. "Silver Crescent, judging by your scent. Though there's something." He stopped, his nostrils flaring as he breathed deeply. Luna watched his eyes widen, watched them flash from stormy gray to brilliant gold. The change was so sudden, so intense, that she instinctively took a step back. "Impossible," he breathed, but his voice had changed, gone rough and possessive in a way that made her wolf whimper. Not in fear, in recognition. The scent hit her then, pine and leather and something wild that made her knees weak. Her wolf, broken and grieving just moments before, suddenly lifted its head with interest. The emptiness left by Marcus's rejection seemed to pulse, waiting. "What's your name?" Kieran's voice was barely controlled, his muscles tense as if he was fighting not to reach for her. "Luna," she whispered, her own voice strange to her ears. "Luna Blackwood." Something dangerous flickered across his face at her surname. The Blackwoods and Nightshades had been enemies for generations, their bloodlines bound by hatred and war. But that look lasted only a moment before something else replaced it, something that made Luna's pulse race. "Luna Blackwood," he repeated, her name rolling off his tongue like a prayer. "Do you know what you are to me?" She shook her head, unable to speak, unable to think past the way he was looking at her. Like she was precious. Like she was worth something. Like she was everything. "You're my mate," he said simply, and the words hit her like lightning. The moon goddess has quite the sense of humor, doesn't she? Luna's world tilted. This couldn't be happening. Not after tonight. Not after Marcus. Not with him, the one wolf her pack considered their greatest threat. But her wolf knew. Her wolf was practically purring, pushing against her consciousness with a need so fierce it took her breath away. The empty space left by Marcus's rejection suddenly blazed to life, golden threads spinning between her and Kieran like fate itself was rewiring her soul. "I can't," she whispered, though everything in her wanted to step closer, to see if he was real. "My pack." "Your pack just watched their future alpha publicly reject and humiliate you," Kieran cut her off, his voice gentle despite the fury burning in his eyes. "What do you owe them?" The truth of it hit her like a physical blow. What did she owe them? After tonight, after the whispers and the shame and the way they'd all stood by and watched Marcus destroy her, what loyalty did she have left? Kieran extended his hand, and Luna stared at it like it might burn her. Maybe it would. Maybe getting burned was exactly what she needed. "Come with me, Luna Blackwood," he said, his voice a command and a request all at once. "Let me show you what it means to be truly valued." Luna looked back toward Silver Crescent territory, toward everything she'd ever known. Then she looked at Kieran, this dangerous, impossible man who looked at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. Her claws retracted. Her breathing steadied. And for the first time in her life, Luna Blackwood made a choice that was entirely her own. She took his hand. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The moment Luna's fingers touched Kieran's, the world exploded into sensation. Heat raced up her arm like liquid fire, spreading through her chest and down to her very bones. Her wolf, dormant and broken just moments before, suddenly roared to life with a strength she'd never felt. The partial shift she'd struggled with her entire life completed itself in an instant, her canines elongated, her senses sharpened to impossible clarity, and power thrummed through every cell of her body. "What?" she gasped, but Kieran was already pulling her closer, his own eyes blazing gold with barely controlled need. "Mine," he growled, the word rumbling from deep in his chest. Before Luna could process what was happening, before she could think or protest or even breathe, Kieran's head descended and his teeth sank into the curve of her neck. The marking bite sent shockwaves through both their bodies. Luna's scream of surprise transformed into something else entirely as the mate bond slammed into place with the force of a hurricane. Not the gentle golden thread she'd felt with Marcus, but something wild and primal and utterly consuming. Silver light erupted around them, so bright it turned night to day for a heartbeat. The very air crackled with power, and somewhere in the distance, Luna heard wolves howling, both packs feeling the shift in the supernatural fabric that bound them all. Then everything went dark. Luna woke to silk. Rich, midnight blue silk sheets that felt like water against her skin. For a moment, she lay still, her mind foggy and confused. The last thing she remembered was Kieran's teeth on her throat, that explosion of light and power, and then... Shit! She bolted upright, her hand flying to her neck. Her fingers found 2 small puncture wounds, already healed but still tender. The skin around them thrummed with energy, marking her as claimed. As owned. Fury blazed through her, hot and righteous. She looked around the room she was in, spacious and elegant, with dark wood furniture and windows that looked out over territory she didn't recognize. This wasn't Silver Crescent land. This was Shadow Moon territory, she whispered, the reality hitting her like a blow. He kidnapped me. She tried to get out of bed and realized she was wearing an oversized shirt that smelled like pine and leather. Like him. Her own clothes were nowhere to be seen, and the shirt barely reached mid-thigh. Heat flooded her cheeks as she wondered who had changed her clothes. The bedroom door opened without a knock, and Kieran Nightshade walked in like he owned the place. Which, Luna realized with growing anger, he probably did. "You're awake," he said, his voice carefully neutral. He'd changed from his earlier black jeans and t-shirt into dark slacks and a button-down that did nothing to hide the powerful build beneath. In the morning light streaming through the windows, he looked less like the dangerous predator who'd marked her and more like a successful businessman. It was somehow more unsettling. "You bit me," Luna said, her voice deadly quiet. "You marked me without my consent." Kieran's jaw tightened. "You took my hand. You came with me willingly. I took your hand. I didn't agree to be claimed like some piece of property." The truth of it stung, but Luna couldn't let it go. "You don't understand. This isn't just about me anymore. Our packs have been enemies for generations. This marking, this bond, it's going to start a war." Something flickered across Kieran's face, too quick for her to catch. "Let me worry about pack politics. Right now, I need you to focus on adjusting to the change. The mate bond can be overwhelming at first, especially with a marking as powerful as ours was." "Powerful?" Luna touched her neck again, remembering that explosion of silver light. "What do you mean?" Before Kieran could answer, a knock came at the door. He moved to open it, revealing a woman with steel-gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She was older, maybe 60, but she carried herself with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Kieran," the woman said, her gaze moving to Luna with frank curiosity. "The entire pack felt the marking last night. Some of the wolves are saying." "Not now, Vera," Kieran cut her off. "Luna needs time to adjust before she meets the pack." Actually, Luna stood up, trying to project confidence despite her state of undress. "I'd rather know what they're saying. It's my life being discussed, after all." Vera's eyebrows rose, but she looked impressed. "Direct. I like that." She glanced at Kieran, who nodded reluctantly. "The pack is saying the marking was so powerful it lit up the sky. Some of the older wolves are claiming they haven't felt anything like it since." She paused, studying Luna more closely. "Since the last of the royal bloodlines was thought to have died out." "Royal bloodlines?" Luna repeated, confused. "What are you talking about?" Vera and Kieran exchanged a look that made Luna's wolf stir uneasily. There was something they weren't telling her, something important. "Vera," Kieran said in a warning tone. "She has a right to know, especially now that she's pack," the older woman replied firmly. She turned to Luna. "What do you know about your mother's family, child?" "My mother?" Luna frowned. "She died when I was 5. My father said she came from a small pack in the north that was attacked by rogues. She was the only survivor. And her name? Elena. Elena. Ravencrest, I think. Dad doesn't like to talk about it. Says it's too painful. The silence that followed was deafening. Vera's face had gone pale, and Kieran looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Ravencrest, Vera breathed. Sweet moon goddess, she's Ravencrest. What's Ravencrest? Luna demanded, frustration building at being left out of yet another conversation about her own life. And why do you both look like you've seen a ghost? Kieran moved to the windows, his posture tense. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. The Ravencrest line was one of the original royal bloodlines. They could trace their lineage back to the first wolves, the ones blessed directly by the moon goddess herself. They were known for their power, their ability to strengthen any pack they joined. Luna repeated. Past tense. They were thought to be extinct, Vera said quietly. The last known Ravencrest died in a rogue attack 30 years ago. Or so everyone believed. Luna's legs felt weak. She sat back down heavily, her mind reeling. You're saying my mother was from a royal bloodline? But that's impossible. I'm weak. I've never been able to fully shift. I'm not powerful. You've never been able to fully shift in Silver Crescent territory, Kieran corrected, turning to face her. But last night, when you took my hand, what happened? Luna remembered the rush of power, the way her partial shift had suddenly completed itself, the strength that had flooded through her body. That was different. That was the mate bond. Was it? Vera asked. Or was it being in the presence of another strong bloodline, one that could awaken your dormant abilities? The room spun around Luna. Royal bloodline. Dormant abilities. It was too much, too fast. All her life she'd been told she was weak, inadequate, barely worthy of her pack's acceptance. Now they were saying she was descended from wolves of legend? This is insane, she whispered. Even if it's true, even if my mother was some long-lost royal, I'm still just me. Still the wolf who couldn't shift properly, still the girl who got publicly rejected in front of everyone. No, Kieran said firmly, crossing to kneel in front of her. His hands found hers, and the touch sent sparks up her arms. You're my mate. You're Luna Nightshade now, and you're under my protection. No one will ever humiliate you again. The possessiveness in his voice should have angered her. Instead, it made her wolf purr with satisfaction, made something deep inside her chest warm with a feeling she was afraid to name. Luna Nightshade, she repeated, testing how it sounded. Strange, but not entirely unwelcome. A commotion outside made all three of them freeze. Shouting voices, the sound of vehicles, and underneath it all, the distinctive howl of Silver Crescent wolves. Kieran was on his feet instantly, his body going tense with alpha readiness. They've come for you. Luna's heart clenched as she recognized one of the voices, her father, demanding her return. Through the window, she could see the cars at the territory border, could make out familiar figures standing at the tree line. I have to go to them, she said, starting toward the door. I have to explain. No. Kieran's voice was pure command, stopping her in her tracks. You're marked now. You're mine. I won't let them take you back to a pack that treated you as disposable. They're my family. I'm your mate. The words exploded from him with such force that the windows rattled. His eyes were pure gold now, his wolf rising to the surface. The bond is sacred, Luna. Nothing comes before it. Nothing. Luna stared at him, seeing the dangerous alpha who'd built Shadow Moon Pack into a force to be reckoned with. This wasn't the man who'd knelt before her moments ago, who'd admitted his mistakes and shown her vulnerability. This was the predator who'd marked her without permission, who'd claimed her like property. You can't keep me prisoner, she said quietly. I can and I will if it means keeping you safe. Outside, her father's voice rose above the others. Luna. Luna, if you can hear me, come home. Whatever he's done to you, whatever he's promised, it's not too late. The words hit her like physical blows. They thought she'd betrayed them. Thought she'd run off with their enemy out of spite or stupidity or worse. The pack that had raised her, that had watched her grow up, believed she was capable of treason. Maybe she was. "Let me talk to them," she said to Kieran, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "Let me tell them I'm staying by choice." "Luna." "Not because you're forcing me," she continued, meeting his eyes. "But because for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw something worth claiming. Something worth fighting for." The gold in Kieran's eyes flickered, uncertainty replacing some of the possessive fury. "You're staying?" Luna touched the mark on her neck, felt the steady pulse of the mate bond between them. It was terrifying and overwhelming and completely beyond her control. But it was also the first thing in her life that had ever felt entirely hers. "I'm staying," she said. "But I do it as your equal, Kieran Nightshade. Not as your possession. If we're going to make this work, it has to be on my terms too." Something shifted in his expression, respect mingling with the desire she'd seen there since the moment they met. "Partners?" "Partners," she agreed. Outside, the voices of her former pack continued calling for her return, but Luna no longer felt the pull to go to them. The bond with Kieran hummed between them, stronger now that she'd chosen to accept it, and her wolf settled into a contentment she'd never experienced. She was Luna Nightshade now. Royal bloodline or not, powerful or weak, she belonged somewhere. And for the first time in her life, that somewhere felt like home. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 3. 3 weeks into her new life, Luna discovered that being mated to an alpha was both a blessing and a curse. The blessing came in the form of strength she'd never imagined possessing. Under Kieran's guidance, her dormant abilities had awakened with frightening intensity. She could fully shift now, her wolf form sleek and silver with eyes that glowed like moonlight. Her senses had sharpened to supernatural levels, and the power that coursed through her veins made her feel invincible. The curse came in the form of Shadow Moon pack members who watched her every move with suspicious eyes, waiting for her to prove she was the weak outsider they believed her to be. Again, Kieran commanded from the edge of the training circle, his voice carrying across the morning mist. "And this time, don't hold back." Luna wiped sweat from her brow, her muscles aching from the intense session. Around the circle, a dozen Shadow Moon wolves observed her sparring match with Derek, Kieran's beta. She'd been holding back, afraid of hurting the man who'd been nothing but welcoming since her arrival. "I don't want to." "Luna." Kieran's voice cut through her protest like a blade. "You're not the same wolf you were in Silver Crescent. Stop acting like you are." The reprimand stung, partly because it was fair. She was stronger now, faster, more lethal than she'd ever been. But old habits died hard, and the voice in her head that whispered she wasn't good enough was proving difficult to silence. Derek circled her, his brown eyes kind but determined. "He's right, Luna. I can handle whatever you dish out. Trust yourself." Trust herself. As if it were that simple. Luna centered herself, feeling for the power that lived just beneath her skin. It was there, waiting, a silver fire that responded to her emotions. She let a little of it loose, felt her eyes begin to glow, and launched herself at Derek. This time, she didn't hold back. The fight was over in seconds. Derek hit the ground hard, winded but grinning as Luna stood over him, her canines extended and power radiating from her invisible waves. The watching wolves murmured among themselves, some impressed, others clearly unsettled. "Better," Kieran said, but Luna caught the flash of something in his eyes. Pride, yes, but also calculation. As if he was cataloging her abilities for future use. "Enough for today," she said, stepping back and offering Derek a hand up. "I need some air." She walked away before Kieran could object, needing space from his intense scrutiny and the weight of expectation that seemed to follow her everywhere. The Shadow Moon territory was beautiful, dense forest and rolling hills that stretched for miles, but sometimes it felt like a gilded cage. Luna found herself at the Pack's Memorial Garden, a peaceful grove where stones marked the wolves who died defending their territory. She'd discovered it by accident her first week here and found it oddly comforting. The dead didn't judge or expect anything from her. "You're getting stronger." Luna didn't turn around. She'd felt Kieran approaching through their bond, that constant awareness of each other that had only intensified as the days passed. "That's what you wanted, isn't it? A strong mate to help you face whatever's coming. What's that supposed to mean?" Now she did turn, meeting his storm-gray eyes directly. "I'm not stupid, Kieran. I see how you watch me during training, like you're measuring my worth. I hear the whispers about some ancient threat, some curse that's been hanging over your pack. You didn't mark me because of some grand romantic gesture. You need my power." Kieran's jaw tightened. "The mate bond isn't something that can be manufactured, Luna. I couldn't have claimed you if we weren't truly destined. But you could have chosen not to act on it," she pointed out. "You could have let me go back to Silver Crescent and found another way to deal with your problems. Instead, you marked me the moment you realized what I was." For a long moment, he said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "You're right. There is something coming, something my pack needs strength to face. But that doesn't mean..." "Doesn't mean what? That you're using me?" Luna laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I spent my whole life being told I wasn't enough, and now I discover I'm only wanted for what I can do for others. How is that any different? Because I love you." The words hung between them like a challenge. Luna's heart stumbled, her wolf whimpering at the raw honesty in his voice. But her mind, her battered, cynical mind, couldn't quite accept it. "Do you? Or do you love what I represent? The power I can bring to your pack, the strength that can help you protect them?" Kieran moved toward her, his movements predatory and fluid. "Why can't it be both?" Before Luna could answer, a howl echoed across the territory, long and urgent, a call to assembly. Kieran's head snapped up, his entire body going tense. "What is it?" "Border Patrol," he said grimly. "Someone's crossed into our territory without permission." They ran back to the pack house together, Luna's new speed allowing her to keep pace with Kieran's alpha stride. When they arrived, they found the pack gathered in the main hall, surrounding a figure Luna recognized with a jolt of surprise. Sarah Morrison. Her former best friend, looking pale and desperate as she clutched a letter in her trembling hands. "Sarah?" Luna pushed through the crowd, confusion and concern warring in her chest. "What are you doing here? How did you?" "Luna, thank God." Sarah's relief was palpable as she threw her arms around Luna. "I've been trying to reach you for days. There's something you need to know, something about your mother." Luna felt Kieran's presence behind her, his protective instincts flaring. The pack was tense, ready for violence if this outsider proved to be a threat. "What about my mother?" Luna asked, pulling back to study Sarah's face. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her usually perfect appearance was disheveled. Sarah glanced around nervously at the watching wolves. "Can we talk privately? It's about how she really died." Ice formed in Luna's stomach. "Sarah, my mother died in a rogue attack when I was 5. You know that." "That's what your father told you," Sarah said quietly. "But it's not the truth. I found this in my grandmother's things after she passed last week." She held up the letter, and Luna could see her mother's distinctive handwriting on the envelope. "Luna, your mother didn't die in a random attack. She was murdered. And I know who did it." The hall fell completely silent. Luna's world tilted as she stared at the letter that supposedly held answers she'd never thought to seek. Her mother had been murdered? But why? And by whom? This could be a trap, Derek murmured to Kieran, but Luna heard him clearly. Sarah would never, Luna began, then stopped. Would she? The friend she'd known since childhood, who'd stood by and watched Marcus reject her without saying a word? How well did she really know anyone anymore? Let's continue this in private, Kieran said, his alpha authority brooking no argument. Derek, post guards. Everyone else, return to your duties. They retreated to Kieran's study, a masculine room lined with books and decorated with weapons that looked both ancient and deadly. Sarah perched on the edge of a leather chair, still clutching the letter like a lifeline. Start talking, Kieran commanded, taking a protective position behind Luna's chair. And choose your words carefully. My pack doesn't take kindly to threats against my mate. Sarah's eyes widened at the possessiveness in his tone, but she nodded. 23 years ago, your mother came to Silver Crescent territory pregnant and alone. She claimed she was fleeing a rogue attack, but that wasn't true. She was running from someone in her own pack, someone who wanted her dead. Who? Luna's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know his name, but according to this letter, he was a high-ranking member of the Ravencrest pack. Someone who believed that your mother's bloodline was too pure, too powerful to be allowed to continue. Sarah's hands shook as she held out the letter. She wrote this to my grandmother right before she died, asking her to keep it safe in case something happened to her. Luna took the letter with numb fingers, recognizing her mother's careful script on the aged paper. The words blurred as she tried to read them, her emotions too chaotic to process the information properly. Luna discovered she was being hunted, she read aloud, her voice cracking. The Council of Shadows has decreed that the Ravencrest line must end with her. They fear what we represent, the power that flows through our veins. If something happens to me, please ensure my daughter knows the truth. She is not weak, as they will try to convince her. She is the last of our kind, and there will be those who will kill to prevent her from awakening to her full potential. The letter fell from Luna's fingers as the implications hit her. Not only was her mother murdered, but Luna herself had been a target from birth. The weakness she'd experienced growing up, the inability to fully shift, it hadn't been natural. It had been deliberate suppression, probably engineered by the same forces that had killed her mother. The Council of Shadows, Kieran said grimly. I've heard whispers of them. An ancient organization that believes pure bloodlines are too dangerous to exist. They're still active, Sarah said quietly. And according to some things I've uncovered, they're the reason Marcus rejected you. Luna's head snapped up. What? Think about it, Luna. Marcus had been your destined mate since childhood. Everyone knew it. Then suddenly, on the night of your claiming ceremony, he publicly rejects you for political reasons? Sarah shook her head. Someone got to him. Someone convinced him that you were dangerous. That's impossible, Luna protested, but even as she said it, doubt crept in. Marcus's rejection had been so sudden, so final. And the words he'd used, calling her weak, unsuitable, they'd felt rehearsed. There's more, Sarah continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I think someone in Silver Crescent has been working with the council. Someone who's been watching you, reporting on your abilities, making sure you never reached your full potential. Who? The question came out as a growl, Luna's wolf rising with protective fury. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I think it was my father. The confession hit the room like a bomb. Luna stared at her former best friend, trying to process the implications. Beta Morrison, Sarah's father, had been like an uncle to her growing up. He'd been her father's closest friend, a trusted advisor to the Alpha. And if Sarah was right, he'd been conspiring to keep Luna weak and vulnerable her entire life. Why are you telling me this? Luna asked, suspicion finally overriding her shock. If your father is involved, why risk exposing him? Sarah's composure cracked, tears streaming down her face. Because I was in love with Marcus, she whispered. I've loved him since we were children, and when I realized he was destined for someone else, I helped my father convince him to reject you. I thought if you were out of the picture, he might choose me instead. Luna's blood turned to ice. You what? I'm sorry, Sarah sobbed. I'm so sorry, Luna. I was jealous and stupid and I thought I could make him love me. But he didn't choose me after all. He chose Celeste because her family has political connections he needs. And now I've learned what my father really is, what I helped him do to you, and I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to make it right. Luna stood slowly, power crackling around her like electricity. Her eyes blazed silver as her wolf pushed toward the surface, demanding justice for this betrayal. You helped orchestrate my humiliation, she said, her voice deadly calm. You watched me break apart that night and said nothing. You let me believe I was worthless, that I deserved Marcus's rejection. Luna, please. Get out. The command exploded from Luna with such force that the windows rattled. Sarah scrambled backward, terror written across her face as she felt the full weight of Luna's awakened power. Luna, Kieran said quietly, his hand finding her shoulder. She brought you the truth. That has to count for something. She's the reason I needed the truth in the first place. Luna spun to face him, and Kieran took an involuntary step back at the fury blazing in her eyes. She manipulated everything. My rejection, my exile, probably even the fact that I ended up in your territory that night. How do I know this isn't all part of some elaborate plan? The question hung between them, and Luna saw something flicker in Kieran's expression. Guilt. Knowledge. As if her accusation had hit closer to home than she'd intended. Kieran? Her voice was very quiet now, very dangerous. What aren't you telling me? He was silent for so long that Luna felt her heart begin to crack. When he finally spoke, his words confirmed her worst fears. The curse threatening my pack, he said slowly. It's connected to the Council of Shadows. They've been targeting bloodlines like ours for generations, weakening the strongest packs from within. I knew when I marked you that you were Ravencrest. I could smell it in your blood. You knew. The words were barely a whisper. You knew who I was before you marked me, and you did it anyway. Not because you loved me, but because you needed a weapon against the Council. It's not that simple. Isn't it? Luna laughed, the sound brittle and broken. My whole life has been one manipulation after another. My best friend orchestrating my humiliation. My mate using me for my power. Even my father lying about how my mother died. Is there anyone who's ever seen me as more than a tool to be used? She was backing toward the door as she spoke, her power building with her emotional state. The very air seemed to shimmer around her, and both Kieran and Sarah looked afraid. Where are you going? Kieran demanded. Away from here. Away from all of you. Luna's hand found the doorknob. I trusted you, Kieran. I chose you over my own pack, and you've been lying to me from the beginning. Luna, don't do this. The Council is still out there. You're not safe alone. I'm not safe anywhere, she shot back. At least alone, I won't have to worry about being betrayed by the people who claim to care about me. She was through the door before either of them could stop her, her enhanced speed carrying her away from the pack house and toward the forest. Behind her, she heard Kieran calling her name, felt his panic through their bond, but she blocked it out. She needed time to think, to process everything she'd learned. Her mother hadn't died in a random rogue attack, she'd been murdered by people who feared her bloodline. Luna herself had been a target from birth, her abilities deliberately suppressed by wolves she'd trusted. And the man she'd thought was her salvation, her true mate, had marked her not out of love but out of necessity. As she ran deeper into the woods, Luna found herself at a crossroads both literal and metaphorical. She could keep running, disappear into the wilderness and try to make a life away from pack politics and ancient conspiracy. Chapter 4. Luna had been sitting by the memorial stones for hours when she felt him approaching. The mate bond thrummed with Kieran's anxiety, his desperate need to find her and make things right. But she wasn't ready to face him yet, wasn't ready to sort through the tangle of betrayal and desire that seemed to define their relationship. I wondered if I'd find you here. His voice was quieter than usual, lacking the commanding tone he used with everyone else. Luna didn't turn around, keeping her gaze fixed on the stone marked with ancient symbols she was only beginning to understand. This one belonged to your great-great-grandfather, she said, tracing the carved moon phases with her fingertip. Vera told me about him yesterday. Died at 29 defending the pack from a rogue invasion. Kieran's silence stretched long enough that Luna finally looked at him. What she saw in his storm-gray eyes made her chest tighten: exhaustion, pain, and a vulnerability he rarely let anyone see. "They all did," he said quietly. "Every alpha in my line. 29 years, give or take a few months. The Nightshade curse, they call it." Luna's breath caught. She'd heard whispers about it but had assumed it was just pack folklore, the kind of dramatic story wolves told to explain tragedy. "All of them? All of them?" Kieran moved to sit beside her on the stone bench, careful to keep distance between them. "My father, his father, going back 7 generations. Always the same, they die young unless they find their true mate and produce an heir before their 30th birthday." The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. "How old are you, Kieran?" 29 years, 8 months, 12 days. His voice was matter-of-fact, but Luna caught the tremor beneath it. "I have 4 months left." Luna stared at him, her anger warring with something that felt dangerously like compassion. "So when you found me, when you realized what I was?" "I saw salvation," he finished. "Not just for me, but for my entire bloodline. The curse ends if I can produce an heir with my true mate before I die. Without that, Shadow Moon Pack will fall into chaos, and everything my family has built will crumble." The weight of it crushed down on her. This wasn't just about Kieran's life, it was about the survival of an entire pack, hundreds of wolves who depended on their alpha's strength. And she was the key to saving them all. "You should have told me," she said finally. "When? Before or after I marked you without permission? Before or after you discovered I was using you?" "I've spent 10 years watching other alphas find their mates, watching them discover what it means to have someone who completes them. I knew what I was missing, what I was dying without even before the curse became an issue." Luna wanted to believe him. Every instinct she had screamed at her to trust the bond between them, to accept that what they shared was real despite the circumstances that had brought them together. But the sting of betrayal was too fresh, the knowledge that everyone in her life had been using her too raw. "How do I know any of this is real?" she whispered. "How do I know the mate bond isn't just convenience, desperation making us both believe what we want to believe?" Kieran was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. "Because even if the curse didn't exist, even if I had all the time in the world, I would still choose you. You're fierce and stubborn and you challenge me in ways I never expected. You make me want to be a better man, a better alpha." "Pretty words," Luna said, but her heart was pounding. "True words." He reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him take it. The contact sent sparks up her arm, the mate bond humming with satisfaction. "I know I've given you every reason not to trust me. But we're running out of time, Luna. The Council of Shadows is closing in, my curse is counting down, and you're the only one who can help me save my pack." Before Luna could respond, a howl split the evening air, high, urgent, and coming from the direction of the pack house. Both of them were on their feet instantly, their personal drama forgotten in the face of immediate danger. "Border breach," Kieran said, his alpha instincts taking over. Multiple contacts, moving fast. They ran together toward the sound of battle, Luna's enhanced abilities allowing her to keep pace with Kieran's supernatural speed. As they crested the hill overlooking the pack house, Luna's blood ran cold. Rogues. Dozens of them, more than she'd ever seen in one place, swarming the Shadow Moon territory like a plague. But these weren't random attacks, they moved with purpose, coordination, heading straight for the pack house where the most vulnerable members would be sheltering. "They're organized," Luna breathed, watching the tactical precision of the assault. "Someone's commanding them." "Someone who knows our defenses," Kieran agreed grimly. "Derek," he called to his beta, who was rallying the warriors near the main building. "Status." 20+ rogues, all moving toward the house, Derek shouted back, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. "They're not just attacking, they're searching for something. Or someone." Luna's stomach dropped. "They're here for me." Kieran's eyes blazed gold. "Like hell they are." The battle that followed was unlike anything Luna had ever experienced. Shadow Moon warriors were skilled and fierce, but the rogues fought with a desperation that spoke of external motivation. Someone had sent them here with a specific mission, and they were willing to die to complete it. Luna tried to stay back, to let the trained fighters handle the threat, but when she saw 3 rogues corner a pair of wolf pups who'd been separated from their parents, something inside her snapped. Power erupted from her like a silver explosion. The rogues nearest to her simply dropped, their bodies hitting the ground with sickening thuds. Others stumbled backward, whimpering in submission as Luna's presence washed over them like a tide of pure dominance. Her eyes blazed with light so bright it was visible even in daylight, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of generations of royal blood. Stop. The single word echoed across the battlefield with supernatural force. Every rogue froze in place, their eyes wide with terror as they felt the full weight of Luna's awakened power. Even the Shadow Moon wolves paused in their attacks, awed by the display of strength from their alpha's mate. Luna walked forward slowly, her silver light growing brighter with each step. She could feel the power coursing through her veins, ancient and vast and terrifying in its scope. This was what her mother had died to protect, what the Council of Shadows feared above all else. "You came here to capture me," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the battlefield. "But you've made a mistake. I am not the weak wolf you were told to find. I am Luna Ravencrest Nightshade, last daughter of the Moon-blessed line, and I will not be taken." One of the rogues, braver or more desperate than the others, lunged at her with a snarl. Luna caught him mid-leap with nothing but her will, holding him suspended in the air as silver light wrapped around his throat like a noose. "Who sent you?" she demanded. The rogue's eyes rolled back, foam flecking his lips as he struggled against her power. When he spoke, his voice was barely a rasp. "The true Alpha wants his daughter back." Luna's blood turned to ice. "What did you say?" But the rogue's body went limp, whatever force that had been sustaining him snapping like a broken thread. He crumpled to the ground, dead before he hit the dirt. Around the battlefield, the other rogues began dropping one by one, their lives linked to some external source that had just been severed. Within moments, the threat was over, leaving only Shadow Moon Wolf standing among the carnage. "Luna." Kieran's voice was hushed, reverent. "What did you do?" She looked down at her hands, still glowing with residual power, and felt sick. She'd killed them. Not in battle, not in self-defense, but with her mind alone. The ability should have terrified her, but instead, it felt natural, as if she'd been born for this kind of power. "I don't know," she whispered. I felt them threatening the pack, threatening the children, and something inside me took over." Moon-blessed, Vera breathed, approaching them with careful steps. "I've only read about them in the oldest texts. Wolves touched directly by the moon goddess herself, given power over life and death." She looked at Luna with something approaching awe. "You're not just royal blood, child. You're something far more rare." Luna wanted to ask more questions, wanted to understand what was happening to her, but the rogue's final words kept echoing in her mind. "The true Alpha wants his daughter back." "Kieran," she said slowly. "What if the rogues weren't here to capture me for the Council of Shadows?" "What do you mean?" The rogue said, "The true Alpha wants his daughter back. Not, the Council wants the girl or, bring us the Ravencrest bloodline." He said his daughter. Understanding dawned in Kieran's eyes, followed quickly by fury. "Your father." Luna's legs felt weak. The man who'd raised her, who'd held her when she cried over Marcus's rejection, who'd let her believe her mother died in a random attack, he'd sent rogues to capture her. Not to save her or bring her home, but to use her power for his own purposes. "He's been lying to me my entire life," she whispered. "About my mother, about my abilities, about everything. And now he wants to control me the same way everyone else does." "Luna." "No." The word came out sharp, final. "I'm done being a pawn in other people's games. My father wants me back. Fine. But I'm going to him on my own terms, and I'm going to get the answers I deserve. It's too dangerous, Kieran protested. If he's willing to send rogues after you, there's no telling what he'll do when you confront him directly. Then come with me. Luna turned to face him fully, her eyes still holding traces of silver light. You want me to trust you? You want to prove this bond between us is real? Then stand by me while I face the man who's been pulling my strings since birth. Kieran was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. When he spoke, his voice held the steady certainty she'd come to associate with his alpha authority. We go together, he said. But we do this smart. Your father may have been planning this for years, but he's underestimated what you've become. What we've become together. Luna felt something loosen in her chest, a tension she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. For the first time since Sarah's revelations, she felt like she and Kieran were truly on the same side. Partners? She asked, echoing the promise they'd made weeks ago. Partners, he agreed. And Luna? When we face your father, when we uncover the truth about everything he's done, you won't be facing it alone. Whatever power you have, whatever you're becoming, I'll be right beside you. The mate bond hummed with renewed strength between them, and Luna realized that despite the lies and manipulation that had brought them together, what they shared now was real. Built on truth and mutual respect rather than desperation and need. She was still angry at Kieran for marking her without consent, still hurt by his initial deception. But she understood now that they were both victims of circumstances beyond their control, both trying to navigate a world where ancient powers and political machinations threatened everything they cared about. 4 months, she said quietly. What? You have 4 months left before the curse claims you. That's how long we have to stop my father, defeat the Council of Shadows, and figure out how to break a generations-old curse. She smiled, and for the first time in days, it felt genuine. Think we can manage all that? Kieran's answering smile was fierce and determined. With you by my side? I think we can do anything. As they walked back toward the pack house together, Luna felt her power settling into something more controlled, more purposeful. She was moon-blessed, the last of the Ravencrest line, and the key to breaking the Nightshade curse. But more than that, she was finally beginning to understand who she truly was beneath all the lies and expectations. She was Luna Nightshade, and she was nobody's pawn. The war for her freedom was about to begin, and this time, she intended to write the rules herself. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The Silver Crescent pack house looked smaller than Luna remembered. As she and Kieran approached the familiar building where she'd grown up, she felt the weight of childhood memories pressing against the armor of power she'd built around herself. This place had once been home. Now it felt like enemy territory. You don't have to do this, Kieran said quietly, his hand finding hers. The mate bond hummed with his protective instincts, his desire to shield her from whatever pain awaited inside. Yes, I do. Luna squeezed his fingers, drawing strength from his presence. I need to hear it from him. All of it. They'd traveled to Silver Crescent under the cover of darkness, using Luna's newfound abilities to mask their scent from the border patrols. It should have been impossible to breach pack territory so easily, but Luna's moon-blessed powers seemed to bend reality around her, making the guards look past them as they passed. The pack house was quiet, most of the wolves asleep in their beds, unaware that their former member had returned with their greatest enemy at her side. Luna led Kieran through corridors she'd run down as a child, past rooms filled with memories that now felt tainted with lies. Her father's study door was closed, but Luna could sense him inside, awake, as if he'd been waiting for her. She paused with her hand on the doorknob, steeling herself for what she might find. Whatever happens in there, Kieran murmured behind her, remember that I'm with you. Luna nodded and pushed open the door. Richard Blackwood looked up from his desk, and Luna was shocked by how much he'd aged in the weeks since she'd left. His dark hair had gone completely gray, and the lines around his eyes had deepened into trenches of worry and guilt. Luna. Her name came out as a whisper, heavy with relief and regret. Thank the moon goddess. When I heard about the rogue attack, when they told me you'd killed them all, his eyes shifted to Kieran, and his expression hardened. You brought him here. Alpha Nightshade is my mate, Luna said, stepping into the room with her chin raised. And he's here because I asked him to be. Your mate? Richard's voice cracked. Luna, that's impossible. Marcus is your destined. Marcus rejected me, Luna cut him off. In front of both packs, in the most humiliating way possible. Remember? You were there. Pain flashed across her father's face. That wasn't supposed to happen. Marcus was supposed to wait, supposed to give us more time to. To what? Luna's power flickered around her, silver light dancing at the edges of her vision. To hide what I am? To keep me weak and manageable? To make sure I never discovered that you murdered my mother? The words hung in the air like an accusation of the damned. Richard's face went ashen, his hands trembling as he gripped the edge of his desk. How did you? He began, then stopped himself. Luna, you don't understand. Everything I did to protect you. By killing the woman who gave birth to me? She was going to get you killed. The words exploded from him with such force that both Luna and Kieran stepped back. Elena was reckless, desperate. She wanted to tell you everything, about your bloodline, about your powers, about the council that was hunting us. She didn't understand that knowledge would have made you a target. Luna felt the world tilt around her. She was alive when I was 5. I remember her. She was alive because I convinced her to hide, to let everyone believe she'd died in the rogue attack. Richard's voice broke. For 5 years, we lived with that lie. She stayed hidden in the old cabin by the lake, only seeing you when it was safe. But she grew restless, wanted to bring you to live with her, wanted to start training your abilities. The cabin by the lake. Luna remembered it now, the place her father had taken her sometimes for special trips. She'd thought they were father-daughter adventures, but her mother had been there. Hidden away like a dirty secret. So you killed her to keep your secret, Kieran said, his voice deadly quiet. I killed her because she was going to expose Luna to the Council of Shadows. Richard snarled back. Do you know what they do to moon-blessed wolves? They drain their power, use it to extend their own lives, and when there's nothing left, they burn the body to make sure the bloodline dies with them. Luna's stomach churned. You're lying. I wish I were. Richard moved to a locked cabinet, retrieving a leather journal that looked centuries old. This belonged to your great-grandmother, one of the last documented moon-blessed wolves. Read it, Luna. Learn what happened to her. With shaking hands, Luna took the journal and flipped it open. The pages were yellow with age, the ink faded, but the words were still legible. What she read made her blood run cold. They came for me in the night, just as the prophecies foretold. The Council of Shadows, led by wolves I had once called friends. They bound me with silver chains and drained my power drop by drop, using it to fuel their own immortality. I can feel my life ebbing away with each ritual, my abilities flowing into their corrupted bodies. If anyone finds this journal, know that the Moon-Blessed are not myths or legends. We are real, and we are hunted. She died screaming, Richard said quietly. Tortured for months while they siphoned her power. Elena knew this story. She knew what would happen if the council found you, but she was willing to risk it anyway because she thought you had a right to know your heritage. Luna closed the journal with numb fingers. So you decided for both of us. I decided to keep my daughter alive. Richard's eyes filled with tears. Elena forgave me as she died. She understood that I couldn't lose you too, that I'd rather have you hate me and live than love me and die. The confession hit Luna like a physical blow. All these years, she'd mourned a mother she thought had died protecting her from rogues. In reality, her mother had died because her father had chosen to protect Luna from a threat she hadn't even known existed. The council found us anyway, she said hollowly. They're still hunting me. Because someone betrayed us. Richard's voice turned bitter. Someone in our pack has been feeding them information, helping them track the bloodlines they want to eliminate. That's why I sent the rogues to retrieve you, not to hurt you, but to bring you somewhere safe before they could strike. Safe? Luna's power flared, cracking the window behind her father's desk. You sent killers after me. I sent wolves who were loyal to me, wolves who knew to bring you back unharmed, Richard protested. But something went wrong. They were turned against us, used as weapons instead of rescuers. Kieran stepped forward, his alpha presence filling the room. Who's been feeding information to the council? Richard hesitated, his eyes darting between Luna and Kieran. I have suspicions, but no proof. Tell us, Luna demanded. Beta Morrison, Richard said quietly. Harold Morrison. Sarah's father. He's been acting strangely ever since Elena's death, asking questions about your abilities, pushing for you to be paired with Marcus despite the political complications. And then there was the timing of Marcus's rejection. It happened right after Harold had a private meeting with him. Luna felt sick. Sarah had confessed to manipulating Marcus's rejection, but she'd claimed it was out of jealousy. What if there was more to it? What if her father had been working with the council all along? Where is Morrison now? Kieran asked. Gone, Richard admitted. He left the pack 3 days ago, claiming he needed to handle family business. He took Sarah with him. A chill ran down Luna's spine. Sarah, who had brought her mother's letter and confessed to the manipulation. Sarah, who now knew exactly where Luna was staying and how to find her. We need to get back to Shadow Moon territory, she said urgently. If Morrison is working with the council. A commotion outside cut her off. Shouting voices, the sound of vehicles, and underneath it all, a familiar howl that made Luna's blood freeze. Marcus. She moved to the window and looked out to see a convoy of Silver Crescent vehicles surrounding the pack house. Marcus stood in the center of them, his alpha bearing unmistakable even in the darkness. Beside him stood Sarah Morrison, her blonde hair gleaming in the moonlight. He came for you, Richard said, moving to stand beside her at the window. When he learned you were here, when he realized what you'd become. I don't want to see him. Luna backed away from the window, her power crackling with emotional turmoil. I don't want to hear whatever apology he thinks will fix what he did to me. Luna. Marcus's voice carried clearly through the night air. Luna, I know you're in there. Come out and talk to me. Ignore him, Kieran growled, moving to place himself between Luna and the window. He has no claim on you anymore. But Marcus wasn't giving up. His voice rose, carrying the authority of an alpha used to being obeyed. I challenge Kieran Nightshade for the right to reclaim my mate. Luna's world tilted. He can't do that. He rejected me. The bond is severed. Not if he claims the rejection was made under false pretenses, Richard said grimly. If he can prove he was coerced or manipulated. The bastard's looking for a loophole, Kieran snarled. His eyes blazed gold with the fury of an alpha whose claim was being challenged. Fine. Let him come. I'll settle this once and for all. No. Luna grabbed Kieran's arm as he started toward the door. This isn't about territory or honor or whatever alpha bullshit you're thinking. This is about me having the right to choose my own fate. Luna, please. Marcus's voice was closer now, as if he'd moved to just outside the window. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Let me make it right. Against her better judgment, Luna found herself moving back to the window. Marcus stood directly below, his dark eyes fixed on hers with desperate intensity. He looked haggard, as if he hadn't slept since she'd left Silver Crescent territory. You had your chance, she called down to him. You made your choice in front of everyone. Live with it. I was being manipulated, Marcus shouted back. Harold Morrison convinced me that you were dangerous, that your bloodline would bring destruction to the pack. I believed him because I was young and scared and I didn't understand what I was throwing away. So now you know the truth and you want me back. Luna's laugh was bitter. Because I'm powerful now? Because I'm useful? Because I love you. The words exploded from Marcus with such force that several windows rattled. Because I've loved you since we were children and I was too much of a coward to fight for you when it mattered. Please, Luna. Give me another chance. Behind her, Luna felt Kieran's jealousy through their bond, his wolf snarling at the challenge to their mating. But she also felt his love, his willingness to let her make her own choice even if it destroyed him. Marcus, she said quietly, her voice carrying clearly in the still night air. I did love you. For years, I believed you were my destiny, my future. And when you rejected me, you didn't just break my heart, you broke my faith in the idea that love was enough to overcome anything. Luna. I'm not finished. Her power flared, and Marcus instinctively stepped back. You want to know what I learned in the weeks since you threw me away? I learned that I'm stronger than anyone ever imagined. I learned that I don't need someone else's validation to know my worth. And I learned that true love isn't about destiny or mate bonds or political convenience. She paused, letting her words sink in. True love is about choosing someone every day, even when it's difficult. It's about trust and respect and partnership. It's about seeing someone's flaws and choosing to love them anyway, not trying to change them or control them or use them. I can give you that, Marcus pleaded. I can be the mate you deserve. No, Luna said simply. You can't. Because you'll always see me as the girl you rejected, the mistake you need to fix. You'll always wonder if you made the right choice, if I'm really worth the political complications my bloodline brings. And I'll always know that you only came back for me after you learned I was powerful. Marcus's face crumpled, the devastating truth of her words hitting him like physical blows. Luna, please. I choose Kieran, she said clearly, turning away from the window to face her mate. Not because of the bond between us, not because of desperation or convenience or political necessity. I choose him because he sees all of me, the power and the pain, the strength and the vulnerability, and he loves every part of it. Kieran's eyes blazed with fierce pride and overwhelming love. Without thinking, Luna went to him, her hands fisting in his shirt as she pulled him down for a kiss that was part claiming, part surrender, and entirely her choice. The kiss was fire and sweetness, passion and promise. Through their bond, Luna felt Kieran's surprise give way to desperate hunger as he lifted her against him, his hands tangling in her hair. This wasn't like their tentative explorations before, this was claiming, pure and simple, a public declaration of their bond witnessed by both packs. Mine, Kieran growled against her lips, his voice rough with need. Yours, Luna agreed breathlessly. Always yours. They might have forgotten about their audience entirely if Marcus hadn't let out a howl of pure anguish that shattered the moment. Luna pulled back from Kieran to see Marcus shifting into his wolf form, his pain too great to be contained in human shape. It's over, Marcus, she called through the window, her voice gentle but final. Let it be over. But instead of retreating, Marcus's wolf form launched itself at the window with supernatural strength, shattering the glass as he crashed into the room. Kieran immediately shifted to meet the threat, his massive black wolf colliding with Marcus's brown form in a tangle of claws and fangs. Stop! Luna screamed, silver light exploding from her as her moon-blessed abilities reacted to the violence. Both wolves were thrown backward by the force of her power, stunned but unharmed. Enough, she commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. Marcus, you will return to your pack and accept that I have made my choice. Kieran, you will not challenge him further, he's hurting, not thinking clearly. Both wolves shifted back to human form, breathing hard and bleeding from numerous scratches. Marcus looked up at Luna with eyes full of heartbreak and desperate hope. This isn't over, he said quietly. I won't give up on us. There is no us, Luna replied firmly. There never was, Marcus. What we had was childhood infatuation and destined mate bonds. What I have with Kieran is choice. It's partnership. It's love built on truth instead of lies. Marcus staggered to his feet, defeat written across every line of his body. He looked like he wanted to say more, to make one final plea, but the finality in Luna's voice seemed to reach him. I'm sorry, he whispered. For everything. You deserved better than what I gave you. Yes, Luna agreed. I did. And now I have it. Marcus nodded once, then turned and walked toward the shattered window. But before he could leave, Sarah Morrison stepped through the opening, a silver knife gleaming in her hand and madness burning in her eyes. If I can't have him, she snarled, then no one can have anyone. The knife flashed toward Luna's heart with supernatural speed, Sarah's own wolf abilities enhanced by something that made her faster, stronger, more dangerous than she should have been. Luna saw her death approaching and knew that even her moon-blessed powers wouldn't be fast enough to stop it. But Kieran was. He threw himself between Luna and the blade, Sarah's knife sinking deep into his chest with a wet sound that made Luna's world stop. Kieran's eyes went wide with shock and pain as blood began to spread across his shirt. No! Luna's scream shattered every remaining window in the pack house. Her power erupted outward like a nuclear explosion, and Sarah Morrison simply ceased to exist, her body torn apart by forces beyond human comprehension. Luna caught Kieran as he fell, her hands pressing against the wound that was bleeding too much, too fast. The knife had been silver, she realized with growing horror. Silver poisoned werewolf blood, made their healing abilities useless. Stay with me, she pleaded, her tears falling on his face. Kieran, please. Don't you dare leave me now. His eyes found hers, still storm-gray despite his pain. Luna, he whispered. The curse, if I die without an heir. You're not going to die, she said fiercely. I won't let you die. Do you hear me? I am moon-blessed, last daughter of the Ravencrest line, and I refuse to lose you. Power poured from her into him, silver light surrounding them both as Luna fought against death itself. She could feel Kieran's life ebbing away, could sense the silver poison spreading through his system, but she pushed back with everything she had. Around them, both packs watched in awe as Luna Nightshade declared war on fate itself, determined to save the man she'd chosen to love. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 6. Luna's power burned through her like liquid fire as she fought to heal Kieran's silver-poisoned wound. The metal had missed his heart by inches, but the toxin was spreading through his bloodstream with deadly efficiency. Her moon-blessed abilities wrapped around the knife wound in silver threads of light, drawing out the poison drop by agonizing drop. It's working, she whispered, watching color return to Kieran's pale face. Stay with me. Just stay with me. But even as Kieran's breathing steadied, Luna felt her own strength ebbing. Healing silver poisoning was beyond taxing, it was like trying to hold back an ocean with her bare hands. Each second she maintained the healing light cost her more than the last. Luna, that's enough, her father said urgently, kneeling beside them. You're draining yourself. If you keep this up. I'm not letting him die, Luna snarled, her eyes blazing with silver fire. Not when I just found him. Through the shattered window came the sound of approaching footsteps. Luna looked up to see Marcus climbing back through the opening, his face haggard with guilt and something that looked like newfound determination. This is my fault, he said quietly, surveying the destruction Sarah's attack had left behind. If I hadn't come here, hadn't challenged. Sarah was going to attack eventually, Kieran said, his voice stronger now but still strained. She was working with someone, taking orders. This was planned. Luna's healing light flickered as exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. She'd managed to neutralize most of the silver poison, but the effort had cost her nearly everything. When she finally let the light fade, she swayed dangerously, her vision blurring. I invoke the right of combat, Marcus said suddenly, his voice carrying the formal weight of ancient pack law. The words hit the room like a thunderbolt. Luna's head snapped up despite her exhaustion, and Kieran struggled to sit upright, fury blazing in his storm-gray eyes. You can't be serious, Luna breathed. The right of combat supersedes all other claims, Marcus continued, his jaw set with stubborn determination. I formally challenge Kieran Nightshade's claim to Luna Blackwood, citing coercion and undue influence in the original marking. She chose me, Kieran growled, trying to get to his feet. In front of witnesses. Multiple times. Under duress, Marcus shot back. She was traumatized, vulnerable, and you took advantage of her emotional state to mark her without proper consent. Luna felt her temper flare, silver light crackling around her fingers despite her exhaustion. Don't you dare speak for me, Marcus Kane. I am perfectly capable of. The right of combat has been invoked, Elder Thorn announced, appearing in the doorway with several other pack elders behind him. By ancient law, it must be honored. Luna stared at the elderly wolf in disbelief. You followed us here? We followed the disturbance, Elder Thorn replied gravely. A moon-blessed wolf using her full power creates ripples that can be felt for miles. Both packs deserve to witness what happens next. This is insane, Luna protested. I don't want Marcus back. I've made my choice clear multiple times. Why isn't that enough? Because mate bonds are sacred, Elder Thorn explained patiently. If there's any question about their validity, any doubt about coercion or manipulation, the law demands trial by combat to determine the truth. Fine, Kieran said, finally managing to stand though he swayed slightly. I accept the challenge. No, you don't. Luna stepped between them, her exhaustion forgotten in the face of this new threat. You're barely healed from silver poisoning. This isn't fair or honorable, it's Marcus taking advantage of your weakness. I can handle myself, Kieran insisted, but Luna could feel his pain through their bond, could sense how much the healing had cost him. Maybe, she said, her voice growing stronger with resolve. But you don't have to. I invoke the right of self-determination. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Elder Thorn looked shocked by her declaration. The right of self-determination hasn't been invoked in over 2 centuries, he said slowly. But it still exists in pack law, Luna replied firmly. If my freedom is being contested, if my choice of mate is being questioned, then I have the right to fight for myself. To prove my own will through combat. Marcus's face went pale. Luna, you can't be serious. Combat to the death? I won't fight you. Then you forfeit your challenge, she said simply. The right of self-determination requires trial by combat against all claimants, Elder Thorn said gravely. Both the current mate and the challenger. It's designed to test not just strength, but the depth of the bonds claimed. Luna felt Kieran's shock through their connection, followed quickly by reluctant admiration. You want to fight both of us? I want to end this, Luna said firmly. I want to prove once and for all that my choices are my own, that neither of you owns me or controls me. If the law demands combat to settle this question, then I'll give you combat. But I fight for myself. The trial would have to be non-lethal, Elder Thorn said after a moment's consideration. First blood or submission. And all 3 combatants would need to agree to the terms. I agree, Luna said immediately. As do I, Kieran said, though she could feel his reluctance through their bond. All eyes turned to Marcus, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. This isn't what I wanted, he said quietly. I just wanted a chance to prove that we could work, that I could be the mate you deserve. Then prove it in combat, Luna challenged. Show me that you can respect my strength instead of trying to protect me from it. Marcus closed his eyes, pain flickering across his features. When he opened them again, his expression was resigned but determined. I accept the terms. Elder Thorn nodded gravely. The trial will take place at dawn, in the ancient circle on neutral ground between territories. Until then, all parties are bound by truce law, no violence, no interference, no attempts to influence the outcome. As the elder turned to leave, Luna caught sight of movement in the shadows beyond the window. A figure disappearing into the trees, moving with the kind of stealth that spoke of supernatural enhancement. Her blood ran cold as she recognized the scent that lingered in the air. Harold Morrison. Sarah's father, who was supposed to have left pack territory days ago. Kieran, she said quietly, moving to his side. Morrison is here. He was watching from outside. Kieran's eyes blazed gold with alpha fury. If he's working with the council, if he orchestrated Sarah's attack. We'll deal with him after the trial, Luna said firmly. Right now, we need to prepare. All of us. Dawn came too quickly and not quickly enough. Luna stood at the edge of the ancient combat circle, a ring of standing stones that had witnessed challenges for over 1,000 years. The early morning mist swirled around the weathered granite, and she could feel the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Both packs had gathered to witness the trial, Silver Crescent and Shadow Moon Wolf standing in tense clusters around the circle's perimeter. This was unprecedented, a three-way combat for the right of self-determination, with a moon-blessed wolf at the center of it all. You don't have to do this, Kieran said quietly, coming to stand beside her. He'd insisted he was fully healed, but Luna could still sense echoes of pain through their bond. Yes, I do, she replied. This is the only way to end it. The only way to make sure no one can question my choices again. And if you lose? Luna smiled, and it held all the fierce determination she'd discovered since leaving Silver Crescent. I won't lose. I can't afford to. Marcus approached from the other side of the circle, his face set in grim lines. He'd spent the night in meditation, preparing for a fight he clearly didn't want. When he reached them, he looked directly at Luna. I want you to know, he said quietly, that whatever happens here, I respect what you've become. I was wrong to think I could protect you by keeping you weak. You were never meant to be diminished. Thank you, Luna said, meaning it. That means something. Elder Thorn stepped into the center of the circle, his voice carrying clearly in the morning air. We gather at dawn to witness a trial by combat for the right of self-determination. Luna Blackwood, formerly of Silver Crescent Pack, now mated to Kieran Nightshade of Shadow Moon Pack, will face both her current mate and her former destined mate in combat to prove the validity of her choices. The Elder's eyes found each of them in turn. The rules are simple. First blood or submission ends the match for that combatant. The last wolf standing wins the right to determine Luna's fate, including Luna herself, should she emerge victorious. What if Luna doesn't win? Someone called from the crowd. Then her fate will be decided by whichever male proves victorious, Elder Thorn replied. Such is the ancient law. Luna felt her wolf snarl at the implications, but she pushed down her anger. She would win. She had to. Take your positions, the elder commanded. The three combatants moved to form a triangle in the center of the circle, each about 10 feet from the others. Luna could feel the tension radiating from both males, their reluctance to fight her warring with their determination to win her. Begin. Marcus moved first, lunging toward Kieran with the clear intention of eliminating his rival before turning to face Luna. But Luna was ready for the strategy. She intercepted Marcus mid-leap, using her enhanced speed to tackle him sideways while Kieran pivoted to avoid the attack. The three-way combat that followed was unlike anything Luna had ever experienced. She'd trained with Kieran, sparred with Derek and other Shadow Moon warriors, but fighting two determined males simultaneously while holding back enough to avoid serious injury was a delicate balance of power and restraint. Marcus fought with desperate determination, trying to prove he could be her equal. His techniques were flawless, honed by years of alpha training, but he held back just enough that Luna could tell he was still trying to protect her even as they fought. Kieran, on the other hand, fought her like the warrior she'd become. He showed no mercy, gave no quarter, treating her as the formidable opponent she was. It should have made her angry, but instead it filled her with fierce pride. This was what partnership looked like: respect for her strength, trust in her abilities. The battle raged for nearly an hour, all three combatants breathing hard and sporting numerous minor injuries. Luna had managed to avoid any serious hits, but she could feel her energy flagging. The healing she'd performed on Kieran the night before had taken more out of her than she'd admitted, and maintaining this level of combat against two skilled opponents was pushing her to her limits. Then she saw the dart. It came from the crowd, a tiny silver needle that flashed in the morning sunlight as it flew toward her. Luna tried to dodge, but she was in the middle of blocking an attack from Kieran and couldn't move fast enough. The dart struck Marcus instead, embedding itself in his shoulder as he shifted to intercept it. His eyes went wide with shock and recognition before he collapsed, convulsions racking his body as poison burned through his system. Marcus. Luna dropped to her knees beside him, her hands glowing silver as she tried to assess the damage. The poison was unfamiliar, something designed specifically for werewolves, and it was working fast. Around the circle, chaos erupted as both packs searched for the source of the attack. Luna caught sight of Harold Morrison trying to slip away through the crowd, his face twisted with frustrated rage. "He's getting away," she shouted, but her attention was immediately drawn back to Marcus as his convulsions worsened. "Let him go," Kieran said grimly, kneeling on Marcus's other side. "Focus on this. Can you heal him?" Luna's hands hovered over Marcus's chest, her power probing the poison that was systematically shutting down his organs. "I don't know," she admitted. "This isn't silver, it's something else, something designed to kill quickly and leave no trace." "Don't," Marcus gasped, his eyes finding hers. "Don't waste your power on me. You need your strength for." "Shut up," Luna said fiercely, her healing light growing brighter. "I'm not letting you die. Not like this." She poured her power into him, fighting the unknown poison with everything she had. It was like trying to hold back a wildfire with her bare hands. The toxin resisted her abilities, designed specifically to counteract werewolf healing. Through their bond, Luna felt Kieran's complex emotions as he watched her exhaust herself to save her former mate. Jealousy warred with admiration, possessiveness fought with respect for her compassion. "Luna," he said quietly, "if you drain yourself again." "I can do this," she insisted, though sweat beaded her forehead from the effort. "I can save him." Minutes passed like hours as Luna fought the poison ravaging Marcus's system. Around them, the crowd watched in tense silence, witnessing a moon-blessed wolf battle death itself for the second time in less than 24 hours. Finally, Marcus's breathing steadied and the convulsions stopped. Luna's healing light flickered and died as she collapsed backward, completely drained. She'd saved him, but the effort had cost her nearly everything. "The dart was meant for you," Kieran said grimly, helping her sit up. "Morrison wanted to kill you and frame me for it, start a war between the packs." "Sarah wasn't acting alone," Luna whispered, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "Her father was pulling the strings, using her obsession with Marcus to manipulate her into attacking me." Marcus struggled to sit up, his face pale but his eyes clear. "The poison," he said slowly, "I've seen its effects before. Morrison used it on my father's beta when he questioned some of his decisions. I thought it was coincidence, but now we know the truth," Luna finished. "Morrison's been working with the Council of Shadows for years, positioning himself to control both packs from within." Elder Thorn approached them, his expression grave. "The trial has been interrupted by outside interference. By rights, it should be declared void." "No," Luna said firmly, forcing herself to stand despite her exhaustion. "The trial was about proving my right to choose my own fate. I think I've done that." She looked at Marcus, then at Kieran. "I chose to save Marcus even though it weakened me. I choose to stand by Kieran even knowing the challenges we'll face. My choices are my own, and I'll defend them with my life if necessary." Marcus nodded slowly, understanding and acceptance replacing the desperate hope that had driven him to challenge Kieran in the first place. "You're right," he said quietly. "You've proven that your will is your own, that your choices come from strength, not weakness." He turned to Kieran. "She's yours not because you claimed her, but because she claimed you. Honor that." "Every day," Kieran promised, his arms sliding around Luna's waist to support her. Elder Thorn surveyed the scene, Luna exhausted but victorious, Marcus humbled but alive, Kieran proud and protective, and nodded slowly. "The trial is concluded," he announced. "Luna Nightshade has proven her right to self-determination through combat and compassion. Let no wolf question her choices or her strength again." As the crowd began to disperse, Luna leaned heavily against Kieran, her victory complete but costly. She'd proven her point, saved Marcus's life, and exposed Harold Morrison's treachery. But she'd also pushed her moon-blessed abilities to their absolute limit, leaving her vulnerable at a time when the Council of Shadows was closing in. We need to find Morrison, she said quietly. We will, Kieran promised. But first, you need to rest. You've given everything you have, and will need your strength for what's coming. Luna nodded, allowing him to support her as they left the ancient circle behind. The trial was over, but the war for her freedom had only just begun. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 7. 3 days after the trial, Luna stood in the war room of the Shadow Moon Pack House, studying maps and intelligence reports spread across the massive oak table. Her power had returned slowly, like water filling a cracked vessel, but the exhaustion from healing both Kieran and Marcus still lingered in her bones. Morrison's forces have been spotted here, and here, Derek said, marking positions on the territorial map with red pins. Rogue packs from across 3 states, all converging on our borders. It's not random, Luna said quietly, tracing the pattern with her finger. They're forming a perimeter, cutting off escape routes. This isn't just an attack, it's a siege. Kieran moved to stand behind her, his presence warm and reassuring despite the gravity of their situation. The question is whether they're trying to keep us in or everyone else out. Both, Marcus said from across the table. He'd insisted on staying to help coordinate the defense, despite the awkwardness of the situation. If Morrison is working with the Council of Shadows, they'll want to isolate Luna before they make their move. Luna appreciated that Marcus was trying to help, but she could feel Kieran's tension through their bond every time her former mate spoke. The trial had settled the legal question of her choice, but it hadn't erased the complicated emotions between the 3 of them. There's something else, Vera said, entering the room with a leather-bound journal in her hands. I've been researching the Council of Shadows, trying to understand their endgame. What I found. She paused, her face grave. The lunar eclipse is tomorrow night. Luna felt ice form in her stomach. What does that have to do with anything? According to these texts, the Council performs their most powerful rituals during lunar eclipses. The combination of the moon's power and its temporary darkness creates a unique magical confluence. Vera opened the journal to a page covered with disturbing illustrations. They call it the Blood Moon Ceremony. The drawings showed robed figures surrounding an altar where a bound woman lay beneath an eclipsed moon. Silver light seemed to pour from the woman's body into chalices held by the surrounding figures, and Luna's enhanced vision could make out enough detail to see that the woman's eyes were the same silver white as her own in full power. They drain moon-blessed wolves during eclipses, she breathed, the horrible truth clicking into place. That's how they've stayed alive for centuries, how they've maintained their power. And tomorrow night's eclipse will be total, Vera said grimly. The perfect time for them to complete their ritual with the last known moon-blessed bloodline. The war room fell silent as everyone processed the implications. Luna wasn't just a target, she was the final ingredient in a ceremony that would grant the Council of Shadows immortality and unlimited power. We evacuate the territory, Kieran said immediately. Get Luna somewhere safe until after the eclipse. No. Luna's voice was firm, final. Running won't solve this. Even if we escape this time, they'll keep coming. The only way to end this is to face them. Luna, be reasonable, Marcus interjected. Your powers are still recovering. You can't take on an entire army of rogues and council members. She won't be alone, Kieran said, his alpha authority ringing through his voice. Shadow Moon Pack stands with our Luna. As does Silver Crescent, Marcus added, surprising everyone including himself. Our packs have been enemies for generations, but this threat is bigger than our petty territorial disputes. Luna looked between the 2 alphas, seeing something she'd never expected, mutual respect born from shared purpose. They might still be rivals for her affection, but they were united in their determination to protect her. The rogues will attack at sunset, she said, studying the tactical positions on the map. They'll want to weaken our defenses before the eclipse begins. But if we can break their initial assault, if we can reach Morrison and whoever he's working with. You want to go on the offensive, Derek observed. Strike first before they can complete their preparations. Exactly. Luna moved to the center of the room, her recovered power beginning to glow silver around her fingertips. My father thinks he knows what I'm capable of. He's been planning this ritual based on the assumption that I'm still the weak, scared girl he raised. But he's wrong. I'm not the same person who fled Silver Crescent territory in tears. Kieran's eyes blazed with fierce pride. What do you need from us? Your trust, Luna said simply. Your willingness to follow my lead even when it goes against every protective instinct you have. And most importantly, your promise that you'll work together instead of letting your rivalry get us all killed. Both alphas nodded, though she could see the effort it cost them. Werewolf males weren't built for cooperation when it came to their mates, but they were willing to try for her sake. Then let's go to war, Luna said. The attack came at sunset, just as Luna had predicted. Wave after wave of rogues threw themselves against the combined defenses of Shadow Moon and Silver Crescent, their coordination speaking of extensive planning and outside leadership. Luna fought alongside both packs, her moon-blessed abilities turning the tide whenever the rogues seemed to gain ground. But even as they held the defensive line, Luna could sense something wrong about the assault. The rogues were fighting hard, but not with the desperate fury she'd expected. It was almost as if they were going through the motions, putting on a show of aggression without truly committing to victory. It's a distraction, she realized, calling out to Kieran over the sounds of battle. They're not trying to win, they're trying to keep us busy. Even as the words left her mouth, Luna felt a sharp pain in her neck. She spun around to see Harold Morrison stepping from behind a tree, a silver dart gun in his hands and a triumphant smile on his face. Hello, Luna, he said as the sedative began to take effect. Your father's been waiting to see you. Luna tried to fight the drug, tried to summon her power to burn it from her system, but Morrison had chosen his poison well. Silver-based compounds specifically designed to suppress supernatural abilities, the same kind the Council had probably used on other moon-blessed wolves over the centuries. Kieran, she managed to call out as her vision began to blur. She saw him turn, saw the horror on his face as he realized what was happening, but the sedative was working too fast. The last thing Luna saw before darkness claimed her was Kieran and Marcus both racing toward her, their rivalry forgotten in the face of her capture. Luna woke to the sight of stars wheeling overhead, the moon already beginning to darken at one edge as the eclipse commenced. The Council's been planning this for decades, Richard continued, seemingly eager to explain his victory. Every decision I made, every relationship I cultivated, every manipulation I orchestrated, all of it was leading to this moment. Even your precious mate bond played into our hands. What do you mean? Do you think it was coincidence that you ran into Kieran's territory the night Marcus rejected you? Do you think it was luck that led you to the one alpha desperate enough to mark you without question? Richard's smile was cruel. I've been feeding Morrison information about Kieran's curse for months. We knew exactly when and where to push you to ensure you'd end up in his arms. The revelation hit Luna like a physical blow. Her entire relationship with Kieran, the bond she'd thought was destiny, had been orchestrated by her father's manipulation. Even her greatest source of strength had been turned into another form of control. The beautiful irony, Richard continued, is that your mate bond will make the ritual even more powerful. When we drain your life force, we'll also absorb the connection you share with Kieran. His alpha strength will become ours as well. Luna closed her eyes, despair threatening to overwhelm her. Everything she believed about her life, her choices, her love, all of it had been built on lies. She was exactly what she'd feared, a tool to be used by others, a weapon forged for purposes she'd never chosen. But then she remembered Kieran's words from their first real conversation. What do you owe them? Her father might have manipulated events to bring her and Kieran together, but he couldn't manufacture the feelings that had grown between them. He couldn't fake the way Kieran looked at her like she was everything, couldn't replicate the trust and respect that had built between them day by day. The mate bond might have been influenced by outside forces, but what she and Kieran had built together was real. The choice to love him, to stand by him, to fight for their future, those decisions had been entirely her own. You're wrong, she said quietly, opening her eyes to meet her father's gaze. You might have manipulated events to bring Kieran and me together, but you can't control what happened after. You can't manufacture love or trust or partnership. Those things have to be chosen, every day, and that's what Kieran and I chose. Richard's confidence flickered slightly. It doesn't matter what you think you feel. In a few minutes, when the eclipse reaches totality. His words were cut off by the sound of howls in the distance, dozens of voices raised in coordinated battle cries. Through the trees, Luna could see flashes of movement as wolves raced toward the ritual site. They found us, one of the council members said nervously. It doesn't matter, Richard snapped. We have enough time to complete the ceremony. Begin the final phase. The chanting around the altar intensified, and Luna felt her power being drawn out of her despite the silver chains. Silver light began to pour from her body into chalices held by the robed figures, each drop of stolen energy making them stronger while leaving her weaker. But as her life force drained away, Luna realized something her father hadn't anticipated. Her power wasn't just her own anymore, it was connected to Kieran through their mate bond, tied to his strength and his pack's loyalty. As the council tried to steal her abilities, they were also pulling on connections they didn't understand, drawing power from sources they couldn't control. The ritual circle began to shake, cracks appearing in the ancient stones as too much energy tried to flow through them at once. Several of the council members stumbled, their chalices overflowing with silver light that burned their hands like acid. What's happening? One of them screamed. The bond, Richard realized with growing horror. The mate bond is interfering with the ritual. Her power is tied to his, we can't separate them. Through her fading consciousness, Luna heard the sounds of battle drawing closer. Kieran's voice rose above the chaos, calling her name with desperate fury. Marcus was there too, she realized, his howl joining Kieran's in a harmony of shared purpose. Her father raised a silver knife above the altar, its blade gleaming in the eclipsed moonlight. If we can't drain her power gradually, we'll take it all at once. Her death will sever the mate bond and release her abilities for us to claim. But before he could bring the knife down, a massive black wolf burst through the circle of robed figures. Kieran in his wolf form was a force of nature, all lethal grace and protective fury as he tore through anyone who stood between him and Luna. Marcus appeared on the opposite side of the circle, his brown wolf form complementing Kieran's assault perfectly. The two alphas moved with surprising coordination, their rivalry forgotten in the face of their shared need to protect Luna. Kill them all. Richard screamed, but his council was already scattering. Several of them had been burned by the overflowing power, others were fleeing from the coordinated assault of two alpha-led packs, and the rest were too confused by the ritual's failure to mount an effective defense. Kieran shifted back to human form as he reached Luna's side, his hands working to break the silver chains despite the burns they caused him. I'm here, he said urgently. I've got you. You're safe now. The eclipse, Luna gasped, her voice barely audible. The ritual, if they complete it during totality. They won't, Marcus said, appearing beside them with silver key he'd taken from one of the fallen council members. We're ending this now. Working together, the two alphas freed Luna from her bonds just as the eclipse reached its peak. The moon hung overhead like a bloody eye, its light casting everything in shades of crimson and shadow. It's not over, Luna whispered, struggling to sit up despite her weakness. My father, he's still out there. He'll try again. No, Kieran said firmly, helping her to her feet. He won't. Because this time, we're not running. This time, we're finishing what he started. Luna looked between Kieran and Marcus, seeing the determination in both their faces. They'd set aside their rivalry to save her, had worked together despite every instinct that told them to compete. It was exactly the kind of partnership she'd been hoping for, the kind of trust and cooperation that could change everything. Then let's end this, she said, her power beginning to return now that she was free of the silver chains. Let's show the Council of Shadows what happens when they threaten our packs. The final battle was about to begin, and for the first time since this nightmare started, Luna felt like they might actually win. Not because she was powerful enough to face the threat alone, but because she finally understood what Kieran had been trying to tell her all along. Love wasn't about controlling or protecting someone. It was about trusting them enough to stand beside them in battle, to face whatever came together rather than trying to shield each other from the world's dangers. As the eclipse reached totality overhead, Luna Nightshade prepared to write the final chapter of her father's conspiracy, with the two men who loved her standing ready to help her claim the freedom she'd always deserved. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 8. The blood-red light of the eclipse cast everything in shades of crimson and shadow as Luna faced her father across the ruined ritual circle. Around them, the surviving members of the Council of Shadows regrouped, their hunger for power overriding their fear of the combined pack surrounding them. "You can't stop this," Richard snarled, silver runes still glowing on his arms despite the ritual's interruption. "I've already tasted your power, felt it flowing through my veins. Even without the ceremony's completion, I'm stronger than I've ever been." Luna could see the truth in his words. The partial ritual had indeed changed him, made him faster, more dangerous. But it had also done something else, something he didn't seem to realize yet. "You're right," she said quietly, her own power beginning to pulse in rhythm with the eclipsed moon overhead. "You are stronger. But you've also made yourself vulnerable in ways you don't understand." "What are you talking about?" "When you tried to drain my power, when the ritual connected us through my life force, you created a bond between us. Not a mate bond, something darker, more twisted. But a connection nonetheless." Luna's eyes began to glow silver, brighter than they ever had before. "Which means I can feel exactly where your stolen power came from. And I can take it back." Richard's confident expression faltered as he felt Luna's abilities reaching through the connection he'd forged, reclaiming the power he'd stolen from her. But as her strength returned, something else flowed back through the bond, all the pain and anguish of the moon-blessed wolves the Council had murdered over the centuries. Luna gasped as the weight of generations of suffering hit her consciousness. Dozens of voices, all of them women who died on altars just like the one she'd escaped, their power drained to feed the Council's immortality. She felt their fear, their desperation, their final moments of agony. But she also felt their hope. Their desperate wish that someday, someone would be strong enough to stop the cycle, to ensure that no other moon-blessed wolf would suffer as they had. "I can end this," Luna whispered, understanding flooding through her. "I can break the Council's power permanently, but..." "But what?" Kieran demanded, moving to her side as silver light began to pour from her skin. "It requires everything," she said, her voice heavy with the weight of destiny. "All of my life force, all of my power, channeled through the eclipse to shatter every enhancement the Council has stolen over the centuries. It would free every trapped soul, break every dark ritual they've ever performed. Including my family's curse," Kieran realized, his face going pale. Luna nodded. The Nightshade curse was cast by the Council generations ago, a way to ensure that strong bloodlines never grew too powerful to challenge them. Breaking their magic would free you and any future heirs you might have. "No." Kieran's voice was firm, final. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself for my family's mistakes. We'll find another way." "There is no other way," Luna said gently. "This is why the moon goddess made me what I am. This is my purpose, not to be hidden away and protected, but to be the weapon that ends this threat forever." "Luna, please," Marcus said, stepping forward despite the tension between him and Kieran. "There has to be another option. You can't just die to save everyone else." Luna smiled, and there was peace in her expression despite the gravity of what she was proposing. "Marcus, I spent my whole life being told I was too weak to matter, too powerless to make a difference. Now I have the chance to save not just our packs, but every supernatural bloodline the Council has ever threatened. How can I walk away from that?" Around them, the battle between the packs and the remaining rogues continued, but Luna could sense the tide turning. Without the Council's leadership and with their power source disrupted, the enemy forces were beginning to scatter. "If you do this," Kieran said quietly, "if you pour all your life force into breaking their magic, what happens to you?" Luna looked up at the eclipsed moon, feeling its power calling to her blood. I don't know, she admitted. The Moon-Blessed who came before me never had this choice. They died as victims, their power stolen rather than freely given. I'd be the first to offer my life willingly for others' freedom. Then don't, Kieran pleaded, his hands finding her face, his thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized she was shedding. Please, Luna. I can live with the curse. I can die at 30 knowing that I had these months with you. But I can't live knowing that you sacrificed everything for my sake. It's not just for you, Luna said, covering his hands with hers. It's for every wolf who's ever been hunted by the council, every family that's been destroyed by their greed. It's for the children who deserve to grow up free from this shadow. She turned to look at Marcus, seeing understanding and sorrow in his eyes. It's for second chances and redemption. For the possibility that love can triumph over hatred if we're willing to pay the price. The eclipse was reaching its deepest point, the moon almost completely swallowed by shadow. Luna could feel the power building inside her, responding to the celestial event with increasing intensity. If I'm going to do this, she said, it has to be now. Richard must have sensed what she was planning because he launched himself at her with desperate fury, silver claws extended and murder in his eyes. But Kieran and Marcus were ready for him, both alphas moving to intercept the attack with perfect coordination. Go! Kieran shouted as he grappled with Richard. Do what you have to do. Luna closed her eyes and reached deep within herself, finding the core of power that made her moon-blessed. She felt the connection to every wolf the council had killed, felt their trapped essence crying out for freedom. And beneath it all, she felt something else, a presence vast and ancient and infinitely compassionate. The moon goddess herself, watching over her chosen daughter's final act. Luna opened her eyes and let her power explode outward, silver light pouring from her in waves that made the eclipse itself seem dim. The light spread across the battlefield, across the territories, across the continent itself, seeking out every trace of the council's stolen magic. She felt Richard scream as the power he'd taken from her was torn away, felt the surviving council members collapse as centuries of stolen life force abandoned their bodies. She felt the Nightshade curse shatter like glass, its dark bindings dissolved by the purity of her sacrifice. And she felt herself fading, her life force pouring out to heal wounds that had festered for generations. Luna. Kieran's voice seemed to come from very far away. She could sense him trying to reach her, trying to anchor her to the world through their mate bond, but the pull of her sacrifice was too strong. You have chosen well, my daughter. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, resonating through Luna's fading consciousness with the weight of eternity. She found herself standing in a place that was neither the battlefield nor anywhere else she recognized, a realm of silver light and infinite possibility. Before her stood a figure that shifted and changed like moonlight on water, sometimes appearing as a woman, sometimes as a wolf, always radiating power beyond comprehension. Moon Goddess, Luna whispered, dropping to one knee in reverence. Rise, child. You kneel to no one, not even me. Your choice to sacrifice everything for others' freedom has proven your worthiness of the greatest gift I can bestow. I don't understand. The moon-blessed who came before you were victims, their power stolen through violence and coercion. But you chose to give your life freely, to use your abilities not for personal gain but for the protection of others. This selfless act has earned you something no moon-blessed has ever achieved, true apotheosis. Luna felt power flowing back into her, but it was different now. Stronger, purer, and somehow more complete than anything she'd experienced before. You will not die today, Luna Ravencrest Nightshade. Instead, you will be reborn as something new, the first moon-blessed alpha, equal in power to any werewolf who has ever lived. You will lead not through dominance but through wisdom, not through fear but through love. And Kieran? Your mate's curse is broken, his bloodline freed from the shadow that has haunted it for generations. He will live long enough to see your children grow to adulthood, to help you build the pack you're destined to lead together. Luna felt tears streaming down her face. Children? The moon goddess smiled, and in that expression Luna saw infinite love and endless possibility. Even now, new life grows within you. The moon-blessed bloodline will not end with you, it will flourish, creating a new generation of wolves strong enough to protect the world from whatever darkness may come. Thank you, Luna whispered. For everything. For the power, for the choice, for the chance to save my people. Thank yourself, child. Power without purpose is meaningless. You chose to use your gifts for others' benefit, and that choice has transformed you into something greater than you ever imagined. The silver realm began to fade, and Luna felt herself being drawn back to the world of the living. Back to Kiran, back to her packs, back to the life she'd chosen to fight for. Luna's eyes snapped open to find herself surrounded by worried faces. Kiran knelt beside her, his hands glowing with residual silver light from their mate bond. Marcus stood nearby, relief clear in his expression. Around them, both packs watched in awe as their moon-blessed alpha returned from the edge of death. Did it work? She asked, her voice stronger than she'd expected. The council is finished, Derek reported. Every enhancement they'd stolen, every dark ritual they performed, it's all been undone. The surviving members aged decades in seconds when your power hit them. Those who didn't crumble to dust are too weak to pose a threat to anyone. And my father? Kiran's expression darkened. When the stolen power left him, when he realized what you'd done, he tried to flee. Marcus stopped him. Luna looked at her former mate, seeing new lines of responsibility and sorrow on his face. Is he alive? Marcus said quietly. Powerless, but alive. He'll face justice for what he's done, but it felt wrong to execute him when you just sacrificed everything to save people. Even people who probably didn't deserve it. Luna nodded, grateful for Marcus's mercy. Her father had made terrible choices, had caused immense pain, but she couldn't bring herself to wish death on the man who'd raised her. The curse, Kiran said urgently. Luna, I can feel it. It's gone. The weight that's been hanging over my family for generations, it's just gone. The moon goddess kept her word, Luna said, allowing Kiran to help her sit up. As she moved, she became aware of the changes in her body, the increased strength, the heightened senses, the sense of completeness she'd never felt before. And beneath it all, a tiny flutter of life that made her breath catch. Kiran, she said softly, taking his hand and placing it over her still flat stomach. There's something else. Something wonderful. His eyes widened as he felt the faint but unmistakable presence of new life. A baby? The moon goddess said the bloodline wouldn't end with me, Luna whispered, tears streaming down her face. That we'd have children, that the moon blessed would have a future. Kiran's answering smile was brighter than the sun emerging from eclipse. He pulled her into his arms, holding her with the careful reverence of someone who'd just been granted a miracle. I love you, he said against her hair. Not because of your power, not because of what you can do for my pack, but because you're the strongest, most selfless person I've ever known. You chose to risk everything for people who'd spent their lives underestimating you. I love you too, Luna replied, meaning it more than she'd ever meant anything. Because you see all of me and love every part of it. Because you stood by me when I needed to make impossible choices. Because you trust me enough to let me be strong instead of trying to protect me from the world. Around them, both packs began to cheer, their voices raised in celebration of their victory and their alpha pair's happiness. The eclipse was ending, normal moonlight beginning to return to the world, and with it came the promise of a new beginning. 3 months later, Luna and Kiran stood before their united packs as Elder Thorn performed their official mating ceremony. The ritual was held under a full moon, its light blessing their union as the combined Shadow Moon and Silver Crescent territories looked on. Marcus had taken over leadership of the wolves who'd followed Richard, transforming them from a rogue army into a legitimate pack focused on redemption and healing. He'd found purpose in giving other lost wolves second chances, and while he still grieved for what he'd lost with Luna, he'd begun to find peace. Harold Morrison faced trial for his crimes, his cooperation with the council earning him exile rather than execution. Sarah, had she survived, would have faced similar justice, but her death in the battle had ended her story on her own terms. As Elder Thorn spoke the ancient words that would officially bind Luna and Kiran as mates, Luna placed her hand over her growing belly. For months along now, and their child already showed signs of inheriting both parents' strength. Do you, Kieran Nightshade, take Luna Ravencrest as your mate, your equal, and your partner in all things? Elder Thorn asked. I do, Kieran said firmly, his eyes never leaving Luna's face. In strength and weakness, in joy and sorrow, in power and vulnerability. She is my choice, today and always. And do you, Luna Ravencrest Nightshade, take Kieran as your mate, your equal, and your partner in all things? I do, Luna replied, her voice carrying across the assembled packs. Not because of destiny or mate bonds or outside pressure, but because I choose him freely. Because he sees my strength and respects it, because he loves me not despite my flaws but because of my complete self. Then by the power of the moon goddess and the witness of your packs, I declare you mated for life. May your union bring strength to your people and your love light the way for generations to come. As Kieran pulled her close for their first kiss as officially mated partners, Luna felt the moon goddess's blessing settling over them like a warm embrace. She'd fought for the right to choose her own destiny, had sacrificed everything to protect her people, and had been rewarded with a love built on trust, respect, and true partnership. The moon-blessed bloodline would continue. The packs would be stronger together than they'd ever been apart. And Luna Nightshade, formerly Luna Blackwood, had finally found the family she'd always deserved, not the one she'd been born into, but the one she'd chosen for herself. As the celebration continued around them, Luna looked up at the full moon and silently thanked the moon goddess for the gift of choice, the power of love, and the strength to fight for the future she wanted to create. Her story had begun with humiliation and rejection, but it ended with triumph and the promise of new life. And in the years to come, as she and Kieran led their united packs and raised their children, Luna would never forget the lesson that had brought her to this moment. True strength came not from the power you were born with, but from the choices you made with that power. And love, real love, was always a choice, one that had to be made new every single day. The moon blessed had returned to the world, and this time, she was free. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.